Today's gospel reading comes out of the 22nd chapter of Matthew, verses 1 to 10 inclusive. And the way today's gospel reading is instructed, it allows us to ask this question: how do I get out of life what I want? If I want to be a great dad, a great father, how do I achieve that? If I want to be a great mother, how do I achieve that? If I want to be a great mechanic or a great plumber or a great nurse, how do I get out of life what I want from life? And the King in today's gospel reading gives us a very beautiful insight on what it takes to get out of life what you want from life. Let us take a look at verse 2 of the 22nd chapter of today's gospel. It says this: "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He dispatched his servants to summon the invited guests to the feast, but they refused to come." At that very point, the king is at a crossroads. He wants to have this wedding feast for his son, but he invites the guests and no one shows up. Now at this point, he can say to himself, well, I want to have a wedding feast, no one shows up, I'll just forget about the whole idea. Or he can say to himself, this is what I want. I want a wedding feast for my son. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to forge forward. And let's find out what he does. Let's go to verse 3 of the 22nd chapter. "And there it is, the second time he sent other servants, saying, tell those invited, behold, I have prepared my banquet. My calves and fatted cattle are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the feast. Now some ignored the invitation and went away, one to his farm, another to his business." But look at the very top line. There is an interesting little nuance that occurs here, a paradigm shift. You know, when you sit down to read in a gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and if you read the entire gospel one evening, that's a great way to spend your evening. But you're going to miss a lot of nuances. You know, when he made that first invitation and no one showed up, the king had to say to himself, well, maybe what went wrong, maybe the servants I had doing the inviting, maybe they didn't do a very good job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to send some different messengers. That's why it says he sent other servants. Maybe they'll do a better job than the group before. But unfortunately, he got the same result. Now the guy's at a crossroads, this king. He can say to himself, I want to have a wedding feast for my son. Twice now, no one shows up. So he can forget the whole idea, or he can forge forward. He can say to himself, I want to do this. I want to have a wedding feast. Nothing's going to stop me. This is what I want from life. This is what I'm going to get out of life. I'm plowing forward. Let's now go to verse 6 and see what happens. By the time we get to verse 6, he's still asking his servants to go out. And then he tells his servants, go out therefore to the main roads and invite to the feast whomever you find. The servants went out into the streets and gathered all they found, the bad and the good alike, and the hall was filled with guests. You see, at this point, he's saying to himself, finally, I want to have a wedding feast for my son. I don't care who we invite. Just make sure we find some guests. And a lot of people showed up, and he had his wedding feast. What does that mean? The man understood what he needed to do. When he saw a hurdle, he jumped it. When he saw an impasse, he went right through it. He never gave up. You know, I remember when I was a young boy, 10, 11 years old, I wanted to play the guitar, so my parents got me a guitar. They got me some lessons, and there I started playing the guitar. But for some reason, I could never get beyond mediocrity. I was just mediocre guitar player. I couldn't get beyond being mediocre. Well, let me apologize. First, I need to apologize to you. I was told when I was growing up, never brag. To call myself mediocre is actually bragging. The truth of the matter is I was lousy. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get beyond lousy. Let me apologize. I was told it's never good to brag. To call myself lousy is actually bragging. So I was less than lousy. I'm not sure what's less than lousy. Lousy, squared. I'm not too sure what it is. But maybe for my sense of self-confidence and self-worth, if you allow me the opportunity this morning, if you'll grant me the indulgence to brag a little bit and just then call myself lousy. So I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get beyond lousy. And then I discovered what was missing. I didn't have back in those days an understanding or appreciation of scriptures, because if I had at that point, I would have understood that king and what that king did to make sure he had a wedding feast for his son, because he never allowed an impasse or a hurdle to stop him. You know, I was, in my heart, I believe that Eric Clapton is probably one of the greatest guitar players of all time. I really admire the way he plays the guitar. He owns the guitar. This guy's incredible. Now, in 1973, Eric Clapton bought himself a Fender Stratocaster. It was a black Stratocaster, and he nicknamed his Stratocaster Blackie. This Blackie is actually one of the most famous guitars worldwide. And I forget where I was located, but I ran across, and then in 1973 we bought this Stratocaster. In 1985, Clapton retires Blackie. So he played Blackie now for 12 years. And once he retired Blackie in 1985, he put Blackie inside of a showcase, and Blackie literally went on tour around the world. And people would go to see not only Eric Clapton, but many times they would go just to see Blackie if Blackie was on tour separate from his owner Clapton. And I ran across Blackie somewhere, and when I saw Blackie for the first time, I said to myself, that's why, that's it. That's what I lack. Let me just show you a couple little photos here of Blackie. This is the fretboard of Blackie. Now, what you're going to notice is you'll see the discoloration along the frets. Now, that is caused by several things: the natural oils coming off the fingertips of Eric Clapton. That's also caused by the strings themselves pressing up against the wood. Fender guitars, great guitars, are made out of, the necks are made out of rosewood, a very strong, durable wood. It's not affected by moisture, so those guitars remain tuned for a long time. They just need some tweaking. Look at that. Let's take another photo of Blackie here. Now that's the front of Blackie. You're going to see some nicks, but you're going to see around the top curvature to what is my left side looking at it, your left side as well. You'll see the wear marks. Then you'll see the scratch plate, that white plate located behind the strings. This photo doesn't do it justice, but if you had a flat profile of the scratch plate, the bottom of the scratch plate below the bottom string is nearly worn thin. That's absolutely incredible. Let's take another look, different photo. Now, that's the neck board, and you'll see the tuning instruments apparatus. Fender always likes to put all 6 tuning mechanisms on top. Many guitars will have 3 on one side and 3 on the other, but Fender's kind of signature piece is 6 on the top. Now, you notice that blackness to the left side? That's absolutely amazing. Take a look at that. You know what that's caused from? That's caused from Eric Clapton. He only played Blackie for 12 years. That's caused from the oil from the palm of his hand sliding up, resting right there, and then tuning his guitar, either before playing it. And since he's such a master on the guitar, a lot of times if you watch Eric Clapton, he'll literally tune his guitar as he's playing a piece of music, because he knows he has the ear for it. It's just an amazing thing that he does. Let's take one more look at the photo of Blackie. That is the backside of Blackie. Now that's where the guitar rests up against his body, up against his shirt, sweater, whatever he has on. That's amazing. That was caused by wear. You know what it takes to wear a guitar down like that in 12 years? It takes hours and hours, hours and hours, hours and hours and hours and hours of practice and play. That's the only way you can achieve that. And when I looked at Blackie for the first time, I said to myself, that's what I lacked. I never had that style of devotion to the guitar, so I never got out of it what I wanted, at least like what I thought I wanted, and that's why I never got beyond lousy. You see, the King in today's gospel reading, he shows us if you want to be a great nurse or a great physician's assistant or a great doctor or a great priest, you want to be a great mom or dad, mechanic or plumber, electrician, there's only one way to do it. You have to suffer for that which you want to become. You have to have a passion for it. You have to put your entire effort, your entire thought, 24/7 into that which you want to become. And when you see that guitar, I say to myself, that is absolutely amazing. You know why I never got beyond lousy? I'll tell you why. With embarrassment on my face, but now an understanding in my heart, I bought my Fender guitar 1973, the same year Eric Clapton purchased his Fender Stratocaster. But I can stand here right now and tell you why I'm lousy, because my guitar looks as good now as the day I bought it. That's why I never got beyond lousy. The king in today's gospel reading was relentless. He knew what he wanted, and he didn't stop until he got it. Eric Clapton, did he have raw talent for the guitar? I have no idea. But I do know this much. He had what I call developed talent. This guy spent hours and hours, and he wore down Blackie. And he became, in my book, the greatest guitar player of all time. Whatever you want in life, there's only one way you're going to achieve it. You have to put your heart, your passion, your blood, sweat, and tears into it. That's the only way you can become what you want to become. If you give anything less than that, you'll never become what you want to become. Apparently, you don't want it. It is a sad thing. I opened up my guitar last night and I looked at it and I said, boy, you really look good. That's Clapton's. Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's a very embarrassing thing to have a guitar for all those years, and it looks as good now as the day I bought it. What a mistake.